Alf, I caught an article on Sports Collectors Daily here recently that I wanted to kind of expound on it because I thought it was really interesting and something I didn't realize. And again, maybe I missed it. Maybe a lot of people already knew this, but I think it's worth talking about. It's the fact that the leagues, we're talking about the NFL, the NBA, MLB, and NHL, so really the big four in terms of sports leagues, are all invested in some way in Fanatics. And this is something that, again, it was not really on my radar. I know that Fanatics, of course, able to get licensing deals and that sort of a thing, but it made a little bit more sense to me as I was digging into an older article. Let's talk about the Sports Collectors Daily article first. Before I dive in though, if you are new to PSA, you've never submitted with them before, $25 off your first order. It's the SCD25 promo code. Use it at the shipping and billing screen. Easy peasy, $25 off, one card minimum. Just have to send them one card, try out PSA, $25 off that first order. Pristine Auction, I actually just won this. I'm really excited. My son always plays Bo Jackson on Tecmo Bowl, the original Tecmo Bowl going back to Nintendo, early Nintendo days that I played. He also plays it. Bo Jackson, obviously the best player in the game. I was able to win a full-size Raiders helmet. And they also, conveniently, I was able to get the display case with the helmet. And I've got that helmet on the way. I'm really excited about it. Weekly, daily, monthly, 10-minute auctions on Pristine. There's something for everybody there. Sports, non-sports, sports memorabilia. Make sure to check it out. I've got a promo code in the video description. $10 off your first auction victory over there at Pristine. All right. So the article on Sports Collectors Daily referenced the Qatar Investment Fund. I didn't realize this. Qatar Investment Fund also is an investor in Fanatics as a whole, the Fanatics company. But they are also a sponsor of Fanatics Fest coming up in 2025 and kind of broadening out that relationship. I did not know this, but apparently Qatar and the Middle East is a huge sports hub. There is a lot of very concentrated wealth. It's one of the largest spots for natural gas in the world. So there's a lot of wealth concentrated in Qatar. They talked about the possibility of having an event over there. And I guess it just speaks again to the globalization of a lot of these big companies. We've talked about PSA has been doing this as far as opening up spots in Europe to be able to submit cards. They've got spots in Asia. There is an opportunity, I think, for these companies, and they're seeing it too, of, man, there are collectors out there globally that are not necessarily being served because we just don't have the operations in place, don't have the infrastructure in place. For PSA, it's grading, of course, for Fanatics, which is tops, and also selling apparel and that sort of a thing. How are we not selling more trading cards in the Middle East when there are those sports fans out there? So interesting to see Fanatics really working to grow out the global footprint to serve more of the collectors and sports fans that are all over the world. Now, in this Sports Collectors Daily article, there is a link to an article from Sportico from 2022. So this is going back about 3 years. And it's talking about how Fanatics raises about $1.5 billion, $1.5 billion. Guess who is a huge investor? The NFL. The NFL. So if you look at kind of the timeline there, Fanatics got into trading cards at the end of 2021. Then in 2022, the NFL invested $320 million into Fanatics. And I thought, man, this is, again, pure genius by Michael Rubin from a business standpoint, essentially taking on the leagues and even some of the players' associations as investors into Fanatics. So they're all intertwined. They're all intertwined. I think that Tom Brady is also an investor into Fanatics collectibles. So, and it references in the article, of course, it's a lot easier to make sports deals. It's a lot easier to make these licensing deals when they are invested in your success as well. So if you're going to take on investors, why not take in your clients essentially as investors? And now you have kind of all of these worlds are working together to broaden out, exposure to the NFL, exposure to the NBA and these major, the MLB, NHL, and so on globally. Their standpoint, they're thinking, okay, Fanatics is going to make these jerseys. They're going to make all this apparel. They own lids as well. They picked up lids in 2019. So all the caps, the hats. So for the sports leagues, Fanatics serves as one major hub that is able to essentially get that brand out there. The NFL wants to grow. Even though the NFL, multi-billion dollar enterprise, the MLB, all these huge sports leagues, they want to continue to grow globally. And there's probably a lot of opportunity, frankly, globally to grow. That's why you see, of course, the NFL has games in London. They have games in Mexico City. I think they had one in Munich this last season. Of course, you've got huge US and Canadian fan bases, but man, so much opportunity, I think, that they're thinking out there globally. This is something that was news to me. And again, maybe a lot of hobbyists already knew this, But the fact that all of the leagues are invested in Fanatics and into Fanatics collectibles, it pretty much seems that, hey, look, Fanatics is going to have these licenses over a long period of time. They now own Topps Chrome, all Topps Dynasty. It's obviously going to be the main focus for cards moving forward. And also, as we've seen, I know there's a lot of people that are not crazy about big companies getting bigger. Understandable concerns there with quality. And look, there's plenty of things to argue about and debate with that. But it's something that's happening all over the place. You look at the S&P 500, the Magnificent Seven, when you look at kind of the big tech companies, they make up like 25-30% of the entire S&P. So when we're talking about diversifying into buying into the S&P, it's kind of interesting because really most of the wealth within the S&P, the companies that are really driving the S&P, you're talking about a dozen companies. It's not a lot of companies that really hold the majority of the S&P 500. And now when we look at sports collectibles and sports cards and collectibles as a whole, it's really not that different. It seems like the bigger companies are they're getting stronger. One of the benefits here, though, is that you do have large companies that are invested. They are, their success is reliant on the success of sports cards and collectibles and, all these different things, which is good if you are somebody that's buying into this stuff thinking, is this going to be relevant in 20 years? The answer is probably yes. Of course, we can't see the future, but better odds here because we have large companies that are continuing to pump money into the marketing and expanding it out because they need to expand it out for their own business. It'll be interesting to see how this goes. But again, just wanted to share that. All of you might have already known this, but also just made sense as to why things are happening the way they're happening with how does Michael Rubin have so much influence? Well, it's pretty simple. He made a strategic move going back years and years ago. He's got the major sports leagues that are invested in his own company. And so they're all in it together. It's all going to work or it's not going to work. They're all going to work together at it. All right, friends, that's all I've got today. Stay healthy, stay awesome, and I will talk to you again later.